Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to the new episode of FellowCommerce. This is where we meet every week to actually talk to experts from the market to know the latest trends in a condensed format for you guys to learn from the best. And today we have a very exciting guest with us, Bjorn Ognibeni, who is, and I'm now quoting his LinkedIn profile, Chief Practical Visionary, which is exactly what we're after here in this show. Hi, Bjorn, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Philip. Thanks for inviting me.
Maybe for those who don't know you, if you can introduce yourself so we will know more about you.
Yeah, you already mentioned my imaginary job title, which is Practical Visionary.
Chief Practical Visionary.
Yeah, well, that's in my one-man company. I'm definitely
cool.
the chief. No, but it sounds funny, but it actually has a serious background. The idea is not only to identify new trends and tell everybody about what's cool and new, but also to actually help companies do something with it.
And for those who are viewing us in a video format, so Bjorn has a beautiful background with some Chinese characters and a dragon, I think. Is that a dragon? Which looks very cool in this neon kind of light. But tell us what that is and why exactly this.
Yeah, basically it says Digital China. Yeah, the first two characters, the green ones mean digital, and the pink ones says China, and together it's Digital China. And that's one of the focused areas that I'm working on. As a practical visionary, I need new visions all the time. And I go to the US very regularly, but I stopped seeing new things there like 10 years ago. Yeah, maybe AI right now, okay, that's a different topic, but really all the stuff that we are using right now was invented around 2007. And now it gets optimized again and again, like the iPhone, social media, and all this stuff. And I wondered, where could I find new things, new ideas? And that's how I ended up in China a couple of years ago. And there I suddenly saw all these new ideas that I used to find in the US. So that's how my new focus developed, trying to find new trends, digital trends in China, and then help companies here to figure out what to do with them.
Wow, fantastic. So, as you know, with the rules of our show, we're trying to keep it short. So, because our audience has very little time and we respect them for it. Because people are working, but everybody wants to know all of the trends and what to look at on the market, because a lot of things happening. So I have three different questions for you today, and I want to start with the broader one. What e-commerce and retail trends do businesses, in your opinion and in your experience, need to be aware of in 2025?
Well, AI is probably something that everybody mentions.
Okay, that will not be a podcast or a show in 2025 if we wouldn't start with AI, right?
Exactly. But the problem with AI these days is that it kind of stuck between saving money and doing nice demos. Yeah, we haven't seen, I think, a lot of really impressive AI applications beyond the demo stage.
Or end-to-end applications, right? So it can maybe solve some very tactical things here and there, but end-to-end process or end-to-end.
Very often it's about saving money. Yeah, doing the same thing more efficient, and that's actually, I think, pretty boring. And if you look to China, you actually see a lot of stuff where AI is used to rethink products and processes. Like if you talk about e-commerce these days, you mention, of course, Shein, right? And I've been talking about Shein for like 4 years now. And Shein is basically an AI case. Yeah, I don't see anybody really talking about this. But basically the whole thing about Shein is the supply chain as a service thing that they are now talking more and more about. Like 3-4 years ago, it was about cheap fashion for teenagers. But still, the whole thing, how Shein works, is they have reinvented the fashion industry supply chain using data and AI. Yeah, and that's how we should more start thinking about AI, not about a way to do the same thing that we've been doing for 20 years, now a little bit more efficient, but actually rethinking things. The whole Shein business model is not so much about being cheap, but about being quick and fast. Yeah, and I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with the business model, but Shein actually launches up to 10,000 new designs every day in their online app. But they are not producing 10,000 new designs every day, but they are just showing up in the app. And I think I heard that they produce something like 100 to make sure that production works. And then people look at these products, at these designs in the app, and they interact with it. Yeah, they like it, they share it, they bookmark it, or they put it in the shopping basket. And this all generates data and thus sends signals to the supply chain to actually get stuff produced. And that's the really interesting thing. Yeah, I think I'm not that much familiar with the fashion industry or retail in general, because I focus very much on digital in general. But I think fashion mostly works is driven by hope, right? That you buy the right things when you have to order things, and then you shove it in the shop, and then you hope it gets sold, and very often it doesn't.
Oh yeah, it rings a bell for me for sure, because I'm in fashion industry for quite a long time, and
Exactly.
also sizes is a big thing. So stock and piling up stock is a big problem for fashion industry for years already, and it seems like there is not a very sustainable solution yet. And this model with direct from the factory seems very interesting, but I think of course it's very risky and quite.
And it's not only about coming directly from the factory, because that's more the Temu thing. Yeah. The interesting thing here is it get actually produced to be sold at that point. Yeah, it's not in real time. The whole process, that if I talk about this in presentations, it's more about a laboratory setting, yeah, where everything is done in real time. That's obviously not done here. But the fact that they are showing customers lots of designs, customers are interacting with this, and then maybe even order it, and then it gets produced. That's something that's that people now get interested in 2025, but it's called C2M, and that's something that has been companies in China doing for like 5 or even more years. So in China, it's not really new. Here it is. And that's actually a good example also why I think it's so important to look to China for finding new things.
Cool. Okay. So if we're moving to the next trend, what would that be?
And that's also rethinking e-commerce in general. Yeah, I think e-commerce is something that we came up with in the end of 90s, and all the system how e-commerce works nowadays is more or less the same. Yeah, it's again being optimized. Lots of aspects have changed over the years, but always only tiny things. And the whole user experience, the way how e-commerce works, never really changed. Yeah, and the basic premise is that somebody wants to buy something, and he or she searches for it, finds it, and then sees the product detail page, likes it, puts it in the shopping basket. Then we have a smooth checkout process, and that's about it. Yeah, and what you can see in China for, again, more than a couple of years, is that this search-based e-commerce is complemented by a discovery-based e-commerce. People, if I come at home and come home at China in China after work, very often people go into their e-commerce app to get entertained, to just browse through stuff, and that's basically a use case that we are very much familiar in physical retail. Yeah, going together with friends downtown or to the shopping mall to browse through products without actually looking for something that we want to buy is something that's very obvious in physical retail. but you never really thought about this in e-commerce. That probably also has to do with the KPIs. Yeah, if I try to optimize conversion, I don't want to have anybody in my store who just want to browse. Right? That's terrible. I want them to buy something. So that's also an aspect of rethinking.
Yeah, that's
Finding
very
new use
interesting.
cases to get people to my shop.
Exactly, and this is very interesting perspective on it, because Western KPIs and how retail businesses are working exactly tune in to acquire consumer, get the traffic, and then convert the traffic, and then it's very operational. But at the other hand, somebody might say that live commerce is not picking up in Western countries as it does, for example, in China, because people don't have that necessity, because people are spending their time on Netflix. They're not spending their time watching some kind of Amazon live shopping feed,
Which is absolutely true. But maybe Netflix gets boring at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, you can certainly see that Zalando makes some of the moves this year. According to their report in November 24, they said that they are going to implement more and more of this live shopping events.
There's a huge problem with this. If my mind or my business model is still stuck in the search-driven business, then I have a problem. Because if somebody comes to my store because he wants to buy something, and then I say, hey, look at this nice live stream that I want to show you about stuff that you don't care about, they would just say, hey, don't bother me with that. And that's actually what happened 2 years ago when stores first tried to show people live streams. Yeah, that obviously doesn't work. You have to make sure that people who want you to, where you want to show them live streams, they are there to watch them. Yeah, and so this discovery-driven e-commerce is also a mindset problem. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Customers should come to my store to discover new things. And that also means that the store design has to be different. If I do a nice retail shop and it's optimized only for finding things quickly without really entertaining and without providing an experience, that's great for people who just come in to buy a pair of shoes and leave because they already know what kind of shoes they want. But maybe that's not what I want. When I want to keep them in the store and keep them entertained and keep them showing stuff that they haven't thought about buying. Yeah. And so again, for physical retail, that's something that we don't have to discuss. Yeah, that's a given. But for e-commerce, that's something that's not being optimized. Yeah. And if you optimize your whole thing for providing a smooth checkout process, you probably fail to get people entertained, because at a certain point you show them, hey, here's a live stream. And by the way, it's not only about live stream, it's also about how I present products. Yeah, just the product listing, which looks like it comes out of SAP, probably doesn't cut it. Yeah, it's more like providing experience with like TikTok. A feed of stuff. And that's maybe something, for example, that Shein hasn't really done yet, but could do. Yeah, using these 10,000 of products that they are launching, show me a feed of new stuff, new designs, where the AI figures out that I like them. There's a lot of potential that isn't really being used right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. In China, JD and Tmall are using all of the potential of this. They're selling, like, we know influencers who are selling hundreds of millions of dollars in just minutes, hours of the live stream. So that's really impressive. But at the same moment, I really love what you're saying about, changing the perspective. I think that if we connect the first trend and the second trend, being data driven and utilizing the social commerce and live commerce trends, companies can develop different segments of their consumers. You will always have consumers who already know your brand and they're returning to buy your shoes, to buy your, toothbrushes, to buy something that is already like a commodity to them. And then your job is to actually provide them with the best service, to be on time, to be predictable, and this is what they will value. But at the same moment, can you interest somebody in a new format of a new type of entertainment instead of a boring product description page and product listing? This is a very interesting thing. And I think that looking at somebody like Zalando, whom you might think people come to buy, t-shirts, jackets, or something like this. Yes, if you don't know exactly what you want, if you're a multi-brand retailer, that really is something that you need to explore in the coming years, because it seems like it is a
But
trend.
the question is if it's really the right approach. Yeah. Take, for example, Zalando and High Snobriety. High Snobriety is a totally cool, great content site, but it's not discovery-driven e-commerce because it's too much of a distraction. It's cool content, but you can find cool content anywhere. The interesting thing is, how can I make the products cool enough to be the content? That's the task that people should, or the question that people should ask themselves. And I'm here in Hamburg, Germany, and we have a company here that's called Otto. Yeah, and Otto became famous in the 50s, 60s with their Otto catalog. Yeah, with their mail order catalog that they send around. And
Do they
that's
still do
actually,
this? Do they still send out the
no,
catalog?
of course they stopped
They don't.
sending out the catalog long ago. But
I'm sure that
actually,
there is a segment of consumers who will really appreciate still receiving the
yeah,
catalog.
if you ask my 12-year-old daughter if what she would think if she could get a catalog from a company like Shein, she probably will be very excited because it's something totally new. But
Gen
the
Z
interesting
will
thing
really
about
love the catalogs, probably. Yeah.
but the interesting thing about the catalog is that's discovery-driven e-commerce.
Hmm.
Yeah, people sat on their couch in the living room, drinking a cup of, I don't know, coffee maybe, and looked at products. So it's not a totally unfamiliar use case. Getting entertained by looking at products, and that's you mentioned Tmall. That's also something that nobody really talks about in the West, and I have no idea why. Because Tmall is an extremely interesting site. It's a place where brands can interact with their customers, providing real cool experiences. That's something that we just don't have. If I ask my clients at a brand, for example, where your customers, your fans are actually interacting with your brand, very often they don't have an answer. Yeah, and Instagram is not the answer. Instagram is a channel to send out content pieces. It's not interaction. And if you look at what an online flagship store on Tmall is able to provide, the level of experience, it's something that if you show this to clients, they suddenly realize that that's not possible here. Yeah, we don't have anything. And that's something that I would suggest a company like Zalando or also Otto or Amazon for that matter should start thinking about, because there's a lot of potential that is not being used.
Interesting. So if we're moving to the next trend, what that would be?
Yeah, you already mentioned social commerce, right? And very often social commerce is also done the wrong way. Yeah, social commerce for us is selling through Instagram and providing a link on Instagram to some kind of checkout experience that very often gets in the way. But that's not really social. And that's also something, why is it called social? Because it's social media, but Instagram isn't really social media like these days. Yeah.
Anymore for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that's something that's really interesting. We are missing the whole social point about the internet. Yeah, the internet in the West is actually a pretty lonely place. Everything that you do by yourself. I mentioned that the use case meeting up with friends in the mall and then browse through stores. How do you do this online? How can I meet friends online to get something, to buy something? It's not possible. Yeah, we don't even have ever thought about this. If you start thinking about this, you suddenly realize that there is no social commerce. Yeah, our commerce is never social, at least online it is. And that's something that we should start thinking about.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I heard about a couple of examples of retailers who tried to implement this kind of shopping together and instantly sharing a link, and then but the experience of trying something, if it's fashion, trying something on, or if it's tech like electronics devices, then
But I haven't seen anybody really doing it. And basically, it's a pretty simple thing. If you look in Taobao, they have a certain function where you're in the store, you see a product, you hit a button, and then you get connected to a friend. And
Mhm.
then we have an audio connection. We talk to each other, uh, but we're seeing the same store products. Yeah. Basically, it's a screen sharing while talking, but it's not anything on the screen but the store functionality. It's actually pretty trivial. Um, but the interesting question is, why haven't we even thought about this? And I think the answer is that we don't really think about social that much. Social, not in the sense of getting reach through social media channels, but social in the sense of building connections and relationships.
So if you would say, if I would ask, like, what are the technologies that are underrated today in 2025, in your opinion, what would that be?
Underrated, underemployed, maybe digital in general. We've been talking about digital change for like 20 plus years. But if you actually look at this, it's more digital stagnation. Yeah.
Mhm.
With a little bit of app optimization. Yeah. We talked about e-commerce. Yeah. That never really changed. And there are lots of similar areas where a lot of stuff is possible or would be possible if we do this. We're talking here about in the e-commerce retail context. My superpower, so to say, is that I'm active in totally different areas of industries. And if you look in the car industry, they have the same problem. Yeah, they have been optimizing the same things for 50 years. And now the Chinese coming along optimizing totally different things on totally different products. Yeah. And very often digital plays a huge part in this. Rethinking digital is something probably that's pretty underrated. Yeah. Stopping, it's the same what I already mentioned with AI. Stop doing the stuff that you have been doing for like 20 years and start rethinking it.
Interesting. But are there any particular, areas or technologies that you think really still underrated and still not used as much as they could have, and in terms of impact?
Yeah, maybe another one that we could talk about the obvious ones, but I think you already covered that. So, how about relationships?
Okay. You
Yeah,
mean just human to human relationships?
yeah. I mean, every company, I think nowadays has something that they call CRM. Yeah, and there
Yeah.
is this R in there that probably stands for relationship. I think, right?
True.
Uh,
True.
but it's not really a relationship. Yeah, it's a newsletter distribution list,
True.
basically. Yeah, and these newsletters usually come from a return address that says something like no reply at greatbrand.com. Yeah, because we never really, and it's actually not relationship is only part of it. Think about dialogue. Yeah, where do we have real dialogues? Yeah, we already mentioned this with Tmall and with providing real experiences. It's the same with dialogue. We don't have any dialogue channels. But you need dialogue to build relationships. And why do you need relationships? To build trust. Yeah, and that's something that's totally obvious in China because the whole Chinese society is built on dialogue, relationships, and trust. But we don't do this, yeah, especially brands. We just assume that people have trust in us. We try to using the obvious ways to get in front of target group, but we never really think about building a real lasting relationship. And that's probably something that it's a pretty underrelated technology.
100%. I agree with you 100%. And I think that there are two aspects to this. One is very technical, and in this aspect, I think the underrated area is integration of the CRM system together with order management and customer care systems, because usually they are very disconnected in the architectures of the retailer companies. That kind of like leads to this being an email notification that you get, and that's it. But only maybe if you are a very loyal consumer or something from a super cool segment, you will get some kind of personal service. So it's very mechanical, very technical. Integrating it more and seeing more if your consumer having a question, a problem, or any kind of additional request, addressing it, not mechanically.
And maybe your customer starts to having an active role.
Yeah.
Yeah, helping other customers, bringing new customers in, coming in with new ideas for products. Yeah, Shein actually is doing the same. Yeah, they are doing this without dialogue, but by monitoring the and using the data that's being generated when people are using their app. Um, but that's also something that we don't really think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Giving customers an active role. And that brings us back to the whole KPI and mindset thing where we have to change things.
True, true. So we talked about underrated, but then I'm sure that you see a lot of technologies that are kind of overrated. So what would that be?
Yeah, maybe retail media.
Okay.
So it's probably not overrated for somebody who is responsible to provide the KPIs that are obvious these days in a e-commerce company. But from a customer point of view or consumer point of view, I think retail media is really a big mess. If you go to Amazon these days, it's a huge problem to find the products that you actually want, because Amazon actually wants to show you the stuff that they are getting paid for. There's probably a healthy way to do social media, and maybe it's also like with poison. Yeah, that the problem is the dosage makes the poison, and that's the same probably true for retail media. Too much of it actually is a problem. But if you are responsible for retail media in an e-commerce company and you have to grow your business, you have to put more of the stuff in there.
More poison.
Yeah. And so in the end, you are generating revenue. Yeah. High margin revenue, which is nice, but also a lot of annoyance for your customers. And maybe that's not the best way to do this.
Wow, that's a very interesting take on this, because I think that retail media is such a praised,
It
technology.
makes if it's done the right way, it's obviously a good way to earn money, but there's also too much of it. And the problem is with the way how our economic system works, was growing, scaling things all the time. You end up with something that Cory Doctorow called enshittification. Yeah, it gets worse every growth cycle, and that's a problem. By the
If a
way,
marketing person can ruin something and put the ad on every single aspect of what you see around you, they would, of course. And I think
exactly.
that this is something that a lot of cities actually went through. There were the billboards used to be everywhere, and in a lot of different Western countries, billboards used to be very, very famous, and but they would cover. There will be a point where it's already too much, so you don't even see the skyline sometimes. Yeah, and now we see that there is not a lot of cities that have so many billboards. I think that this is basically the same kind of cycle that's
Totally.
happening digitally.
And we talked about Tmall. What people in the West very often who think they know Tmall don't know is it's retail media. It's not like an Amazon model where you have to buy something to make money, but actually providing these online flagship stores and providing it with traffic and stuff like that. That's how Tmall makes its money. So it's retail media done right, what you can see when you look at Tmall.
Exactly. So Bjorn, my last question would be: can you name any tool that you recently discovered for yourself? You're using it for your work, for your everyday use, and you can share it with the audience.
Well, probably must be an AI tool, right?
Yeah, these days there are a lot of them, but it can be any tool actually.
No, but these are the kind of tools that I'm most interested right now, because
Okay.
as I mentioned, yeah, AI is pretty cool, and there are a lot of stuff that's possible.
You need to choose one that you're really excited about and you're using it.
Okay, a little one.
Yeah.
That's only available, I think, for Mac users, but sorry about that for Windows. FixKey.
FixKey.
FixKey is a very simple, easy to use app that you just install, and then you can mark any text anywhere in an email or anywhere, and then you push a button and it rewrites it using AI.
Okay. Wow.
Or translate it or shortens it or whatever. Yeah. So that's a very exciting tool that I've been using for the last couple of months, not daily, but every hour at least once.
Cool. Wow, that's amazing.
That's
Hey,
something that
we will leave the link to the Fix tool, so whoever
I
wants to
tried to
try,
find it. Yeah,
give it a
fixed.
try. Yeah, you can do it.
I don't get any affiliate money for it, just to make
No,
sure.
we neither, but we really want to help out people to
One last idea about AI
Yeah.
and overrated technologies. Big problem that we have with AI right now. Fixed key is a very simple thing, so that's really cool, nice thing to do. But very often, there was a very interesting article, I think, in Marketing Week a couple of weeks ago, that said that most marketers are treating AI like a copywriting assistant. That's what I'm doing with FixKey. But actually, it's more like a strategic mastermind, like the whole rethinking things that we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. That's something how you could employ AI. Yeah. Because AI isn't stuck in all this experience that we have been doing for the last 20 years. AI could come up with a new idea. Start using the tool AI not as an assistant for optimizing things, but actually as a strategic mastermind is probably also a good tip.
Oh yeah, AI is definitely not as biased as we are after decades working in the in the market.
But
Whatever
it's
market
still
that.
getting trained by all the stuff that we've been doing. So,
Yeah,
but
and hopefully
usually you can come up with an interesting idea through AI.
Yeah, very interesting. Bjorn, thank you very much for spending time with us. It's been very, very valuable insights from you. Guys, I remind you that please like the video if you liked what you saw and heard today, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next week with the new experts. Every week we're meeting here, Bjorn, and we wish you a great year ahead with very exciting things happening this year.
Yeah, thank you. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it. Okay.